everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, December 4th of 2022. I have a powerful message for you today about the benefits of stepping out of your comfort zone. Now, this is something I touch on here and there in different videos and different situations, but this is something that Chris from Texas, so thank you very much, Chris, suggests that I do a whole video on. And I think that the time that we're in is extremely appropriate for this. It is time for us all to step out of our comfort zone in so many areas and so many situations. Now, if you think about your comfort zone, it's not really about comfort at all. It's about fear. What are we afraid of on the other side of our comfort zone? So many things, right? And fear is just a perception. In fact, how do you think that they've been controlling us, not just for the last almost 3 years, but for centuries? Humans are controllable when they are kept in fear. And it's time for us, all of us, to collectively, individually first, and collectively step out of our comfort zone and start taking care of business, right? On so many things. So I found this great list from a spiritual chaplain named Cylon George, and he wrote down 10 things that will help you realize the importance of stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. To me, this is a very powerful, easy to implement list. Now, the first thing to do is to become aware of what's outside of your comfort zone. Now, a good exercise to do with this is to get a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and draw a circle on it. On the outside of the circle, write down everything that's outside of your comfort zone. Getting up early, taking a cold shower, saying something that needs to be said, getting up in public and speaking, starting a business you want, making your relationship better. What is out of your comfort zone? It doesn't matter what it is. It can cover a whole range of things. So when I did this exercise, this was actually quite a few years ago, and I'll still do this probably on once a year and a half as an exercise. I feel you should see my circle. It was so full of things on the outside. And then what you do is you write down all the things that are in your comfort zone inside the circle. And this can be a very empowering exercise, and it's even fun to do with little kids because their minds are so open, and it can seem like a game, and it can seem so fun to think about doing things that are outside your comfort zone, because that really is about taking a risk and being brave, right? So there are things that you believe are worth doing. There's got to be things that on the outside of your circle that you believe are worth doing, but you're afraid of doing because of the potential for disappointment or failure. Sounds familiar, right? I think just because we're human beings, we don't like to fail, we don't like to be disappointed, but that's a part of life, and that's how we grow. So number 2, become clear about what you are trying to overcome. Take your list of discomforts and be willing to go deeper. Remember that the primary emotion you are trying to overcome is fear. Remember that. Remember that that is your primary emotion, and that emotion keeps us stuck in so many things. Bad relationships. Well, I'm afraid to leave. What if I can't afford to be on my own? If I leave this job, what's going to happen? Something better. There might not be not only something better, but there might be something worse or something not at all. What if I start a business I've always wanted to start, or do art that I've always wanted to do, and I fail? No one likes to fail, but the more you fail, the better you get at it, and the more you learn from it. The better you get at failing, right? That means success. So if you start feeling panicked, try staying a little bit longer before you retreat back to your comfort zone. Now, I like to look at 2 different things that go with this. Think about taking a cold shower. That is uncomfortable. The health benefits are pretty massive for your metabolism, your immune system, your endocrine system. There's so many benefits to taking a cold shower. Well, if that completely intimidates you, start by doing 30 seconds under a cold shower. Time yourself. Then do 45 seconds, then do 60 seconds, then do 2 minutes, and then retreat back to the warm shower. Do a small amount of something that's seriously uncomfortable before you retreat back to that comfort zone. Now, this is also very applicable to something like fasting. Fasting is completely intimidating for people, a little bit scary, taking a risk. And if you're going to be doing long, extended fasting, then you should definitely do it guided. To me, this is not something to fool around with, but I'm talking about maybe you want to do some intermittent fasting. And maybe you're a person who shouldn't do any fasting. So these are not the kinds of examples I'm talking about. But generally, most people, you can do a intermittent fasting once a week, and then do intermittent fasting twice a week, and then do intermittent fasting 3 times a week. And then once you get it down to the times a week that you want, then do a 24-hour fast. Then do a 36-hour fast, then do a 48-hour fast. So what you do is you step out of your comfort zone, you get uncomfortable. Instead of panicking, breathe, look at what's happening. Am I okay? Do I have anything to be afraid of? Am I just uncomfortable? And then sit with that for a minute. Sit with that while you are getting comfortable, because what is uncomfortable will eventually become comfortable. Just like exercise. It is uncomfortable to start exercising. Your muscles hurt, your lungs feel like they're on fire. It might be cold outside and you're walking and it's uncomfortable. Well, the more you do these things, the more comfortable that they get for you. So you have to be willing to get uncomfortable on the way out of your comfort zone. That one is one I truly love. If you stay out long enough and practice it enough, it will start to become comfortable. Okay, I love that. Number 4, see failure as a teacher. You fail, it's like little kids in walking. I love this quote from Jim Rohn. It's actually not a quote because I don't remember it, but he always used to say, how long would you give a baby to walk? Until they start walking. They're going to fall down over and over and over again. So failure is a teacher. Let things that you do teach you. I built a health club 25 years ago with one of my sisters. Now we put everything we had into it financially. We put our time, our blood, sweat, and tears, our expertise, and it didn't make it. It was a massive failure. Now, it wasn't a failure the whole time. We worked really hard. We learned a ton of lessons, but that is honestly one of the best lessons that I've ever learned in my adult life. Same with my sister. She could say the same thing. And we're both grateful that our friendship, our sisterhood, relationship survived that, because we know and we knew that a lot of family businesses that start, especially if things get tough and the business even fails, that sometimes those relationships don't last. And that was a piece of it that was really important to us. But that was one of the best lessons I ever learned from having this business where we invested everything, like I said, and it all went. But it helped me with so many lessons that provided for me to be successful in the business that I'm running now. And my sister the same. She went on to have multiple businesses that have been successful. So we don't get these big lessons unless we're willing to fail and step outside of our comfort zone. So many of us are so afraid of failure that we would rather do nothing than take a shot at our dreams. Start treating failure as a teacher. What did you learn from the experience? And you might just need to learn bravery. We are in a time right now when individually and collectively, we need to be brave. It might be something we do. It might be something that we say. It might be something that we see as an injustice. Instead of just sitting in our quiet, in our comfort zone, speaking out. And it doesn't have to be angry. It can be simply speaking out. Bravery. Take what you learned into your next adventure to increase your chance of success. I love that. Number 5, take baby steps. Now, I kind of talked about that with maybe the cold showers and the fasting, but, be willing to say, all right, this is super uncomfortable for me, and I don't want to jump off a cliff and build my parachute on the way down. There's a lot of reasons to do that, but sometimes there's not. Be willing to take baby steps. Some people can be completely overwhelmed if they jump out of their comfort zone. They will likely be overwhelmed and jump right back in. So take small steps. And I like to look at this piece. This kind of reminds me of people who start learning about herbal medicine. It can be very overwhelming. And it can feel like, I don't know, how I can jump in and learn all this. Well, baby step it. Start with something like echinacea, or start with a small something for prevention instead of trying to go after something gnarly to cure. But because I'll tell you, over the years, I've talked to people on both sides of that. People who maybe don't have an option to start with a baby step. They have to jump all in because their life depends on it. And that might be the case for you. But be willing to put the time in and be brave and take a risk and all of those things. And I'm not saying take a risk at the expense of your life. That's not the kind of risk I'm talking about. We all know I'm talking about stepping outside of that zone of comfort and taking a risk. Okay, number 6. I love this one. Hang out with the risk takers. We all become like the people we spend the most time with. This could not be a more powerful statement. And the more you take a risk and you're around people who are doing the same, it comes off on you by osmosis. That's the way that it works. It's like when someone's exercising in the gym and that's totally not that's out of your comfort zone. And you get invited to go to the gym, maybe to take a yoga class or take an exercise class or whatever. And you're just like, that sounds bad. I'm not coordinated. I'm going to look silly. I'm not, Okay, here's the challenge. Get out and get into those places and hang out with those people that are risk takers. One of the things that I did a few years ago is I joined a mastermind that was completely out of my comfort zone, only until I did it. In fact, when I did, my heart was kind of beating the first meeting that I went to, because I felt like I was in a room full of all of these high-level people who were doing all these amazing things, and I was talk about being a fish out of water, completely out of my comfort zone. But once I stepped into that and I was willing to sit with the discomfort and become this voracious learner and get by osmosis all of the amazing things that all these people were doing and sharing, that is now my comfort zone. If I can be around somebody who's doing big things and doing things that may sound crazy to most people, that is where I am the most comfortable. But I didn't get there overnight. I had to do something that was uncomfortable. So hang out with the risk takers. There is no substitute for this step. If you want to become better at something, you must start hanging out with and start emulating people who are doing the things you want to do. Their influence will inevitably have an effect on you. True, true, true. Number 7, be honest with yourself when you are trying to make excuses. Don't make excuses, just be honest. You will be in a better place to confront what is truly bothering you, and you will increase your chances of moving forward. So instead of saying or thinking, I don't have time for this right now, be honest and say, I'm afraid to do this. A good example of this is my knee. This is a bit of a scary thing especially for someone who'd never had surgery, to step in and do this big knee surgery. But I did a ton of due diligence. It was the 3rd orthopedic surgeon that I ended up going with. I didn't just go with the first 2 that I saw. They were obviously competent people. They were doing orthopedic surgery, but there was just something about them that didn't feel right for me. And when I got the person who did, and I went through everything, there has to be a certain point where you basically are honest with yourself and say, here's all the questions I need answered. Otherwise, we'll never do these things that will benefit our life and help us be successful. There's so many examples. Okay, so number 8, identify how stepping out will benefit you. Keep these potential benefits in mind as motivations to push you through fear. So remember, outside of your comfort zone is where the rest of your life is. that's where all of the amazing things, think about all the people that you still have to meet. Think about all of the abundance that's out there for you to create. It's all outside of there. It's outside of your comfort zone. So you have to be willing to really look at all of the potential benefits. If necessary, get another piece of paper. Write down something that you really want to do that's completely off out of your comfort zone, and write down all of the potential benefits that you will get if you do this. You might be shocked and surprised. And then hopefully you'll be going, okay, I need to be brave. I need to dip my toe in, and I need to step outside and start doing this. So keep these potential benefits in mind as motivations to push through fear. So that very good sentence to repeat. Number 9, don't take yourself too seriously. Be willing to laugh at yourself, poke fun. Growing up with parents who both, my mom gave birth to 11 kids. She was a rock star. She did a ton of things that were outside her comfort zone, always. My dad, same. Multiple businesses, multiple things I watched him do that were outside of his comfort zone, especially in the business that he was in and the time that he was doing it. And I'm telling you, when you are able to say, okay, yeah, I looked kind of silly, I was doing that, and I looked ridiculous, and I'm just going to kind of laugh about it. Putting a sense of humor into it is the only way to walk through, especially if you're beating up on yourself for maybe not doing something, or you're stopping yourself because you don't want to be laughed at. Trust me, nobody cares. You might get someone laugh at you, laugh it off yourself, and move on. That's the bottom line. Okay, now the last one, number 10. I love this one. Focus on the fun. Enjoy the process of stepping outside of your safe boundaries. Enjoy the fun of discovering new things about yourself. We all have these things that we don't even realize are in there, these untapped potentials. And I think if there were ever a time in human history for us to step out of our comfort zone, this is it. This is it right now. We all have these gifts that we're afraid to put out to the universe because we don't want to be, we don't want someone to say that's a terrible idea. We don't want someone to make fun of us. It's just so much better to, sit in our comfort zone. It's always, at least it feels that way. But I'm telling you, the opposite is true. That comfort zone is like your golden cage. It's like you put the bird in the golden cage, you make sure it has plenty of food and plenty of water and a nice beautiful swing to swing on. And you make this cage so comfortable and so protected and nice for the bird that when you open the door of the cage, the bird doesn't go out. In fact, there's this great study that was done on a jar of fleas, where they put these fleas in a jar and then they put a lid over it. And I think it might have even been like a cloth. But the fleas learned pretty quickly that they couldn't jump past the barrier of the lid, and that's where they stayed. And then one day, the barrier got taken off, and the scientists that conducted this experiment actually showed that these fleas would only jump now as high as where the lid used to be. They never stepped outside because, first of all, they didn't believe they could, and second of all, that's now has been drawn as the parameters of their comfort zone. And I think what we do as humans is we draw our own comfort zone. Nobody's putting us in a cage. Nobody's telling us we have to stay there. If more of us broke out and started doing the brilliance that we're supposed to do and bring to the world would look dramatically different very, very quickly. So I'm going to give you a huge challenge to step outside of your comfort zone. Do the exercise with the circle and write everything that's outside of your comfort zone on the outside, and write all those things that are in your comfort zone inside that circle. And be willing to go deep with yourself. Be willing to be honest. just be willing to say, this makes me completely uncomfortable. Instead of falling back on those excuses, oh, I just don't have time right now. So I'm going to end it right there. I wish you guys the most beautiful December week, this first week in December. I believe there's big, beautiful things happening in 2023. Like I keep saying, we still have some hard stuff to get through. So the faster that you can learn to get out of what's comfortable for you, the better off you're going to be. Be willing to be brave. Take a risk. It's not about risking your life. It's about, to me, if you don't take a risk, you're actually hurting the potential that you have. Drop me a comment. What have you done lately that's been out of your comfort zone that has massively benefited you? Maybe another comment might be, what have you been wanting to do that you know would be massively beneficial for you? Maybe something that you want to do that you're not sure. You think, well, I could fail at this or I could succeed at this. Because it really doesn't matter what those things are, because like all those things I said, failure is just a chance to move forward and say, oh, well, I'm not going to do it this way again, because here's the lesson I learned from that. Have your sense of humor. Be willing to have fun with all of this, you guys. I believe we're in the most exciting time to be alive. It can be less than exciting if you're not aware, prepared, and willing to jump out of that comfort zone. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Almost at 22 minutes. But I thank you for being there. I thank you for being a part of this great transition and growth that humanity is going through. Because I know that if you are watching this, you're probably a very like-minded individual. And, I just get on here and I share some thoughts, and hopefully one little spark will motivate you to make even one tiny change that can ripple out. Because if you think about it, what if you become the person who other people want to hang out with because they're watching you do these massive, amazing things? Be that person. Be the brave risk taker. So have a brilliant day, guys. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Share this around if you feel so inclined. I love you guys tons. I think that December is going to be amazing. And I also think that 2023 is going to be a hold on for the ride type of year. So stay brilliant, you guys. Stay uncomfortable. And we'll talk to you soon.